Hunting for hordes in the City of Swords. Melvaunt is a port city on the northern shore of the Moonsea, on the banks of the Tormel River, a bustling, smoke-plume gouting place where smithies clang and wagons rumble, and new swords and daggers clatter daily out onto benches to be oiled and wrapped, and then encased in individual wooden boxes for transport and sale. So the place has become known as the City of Swords, and home to as selfish and surly a bunch of hard-working crafters as one can find this side of Clan Duragar, according to Elminster. Noisy, dominated by cobblestones underfoot and stone walls rising above them. Noise of the crashing sort and crowding at all hours, and nary a garden or tree in sight. Not a place to be overwhelmed by hordes of tourists anytime soon. So, it's not that sort of horde I'll be telling you about. It's the other sort. A horde. Of the treasure variety. Ah, treasure. Cue the hordes. Tankard at the ready? Right. Here we go. Melvaunt is generally viewed as one of the more stable and law-abiding cities of the Moonsea, a prosperous place where everyone's too busy making coin to indulge in political fights or make war on neighbors or anyone else who doesn't stand in the way of their production or profits. It's ruled by a council of lords, local merchants who buy their seats. Twice, this council has contracted abruptly in size when assassinations seemed necessary to get the right voting mix to pass something, and for over a century, 3 local families held most, or at times even all, of its seats. The houses of Nanthler, Lyragon, and Brule. Forges belch everywhere. The city is shaded gloomily by a ceiling of thick smoke that blots out the sun except when stiff winds temporarily blow it away. Day and night, there's the constant din of forge hammers and heavy loads being dropped thunderously onto surfaces. Wagons never stop groaning through the streets, and there are no local attractions beyond taverns to get drunk in, where dancers gyrate and embraces can be hired in upper rooms, and there are time limits on everything and more bouncers than beauties. In other words, local attractions are few and doled out in a miserly manner. So, what's all this about hordes? Well, the very stability of this setting, a crowded, walled stone city where there's always lots of noise, on hydrophobic, water-resistant soil makes it a good spot to hide valuables in the form of gemstones, cut and raw, and metal both raw and stamped into coins. And the busy folk of Melvaunt, too busy to travel far and wary of being watched when doing so, long ago fell into the habit of hiding their wealth in their walls, cellars, ceilings, under steps in their stone stairs, and so on. Little coffers, many of them fashioned to look like stone blocks that the walls around are made from, are everywhere, stuffed full of rainy day funds. Clever dwarf-designed traps designed to maim or mislead searchers are everywhere too, it should be said. However, Melvar are hoarders, and all the realms knows it, from the sayings, if not else. Hoarding like a Melvar, or stacked up like a Melvar's coins, or it sticks to him like coins to a Melvar's fingers. Elminster tells me that most folk across the realms think Melvar are abrasive and stubborn, but admire them for earning their wealth more than they resent them having it. They came by it honestly, is another saying you'll often hear about the folk of Melvaunt. And hard workers who want to make coin often come to the City of Swords to toil for a few years and make their pile. Now, this doesn't mean that hordes are sitting around unguarded, and not just by traps and being hidden. Melvar hire bodyguards and house and warehouse guards and subscribe to the always outnumber the next door guards so thieves will go there instead theory. However, people do die of all sorts of causes, overwork in dangerous jobs, as found in the smithies of Melvaunt among them, so there are hordes that next of kin may not know about, or how to find, or even that they are next of kin in the first place. Some sages who should know, working for the rulers around the Moonsea, estimate that the tiny personal hordes all over Melvaunt may add up to more than the vaults of much larger places hold, and that the stony nature of the place means losses due to fire are few, and its guarded state means successful raiders are even fewer. So, it's all just sitting there. Certain vagabonds and ruffians, or as we prefer to call them, adventurers, have figured this out and are embarking on careers of, yes, hunting for hordes in the City of Swords. Care to join the rush? You won't have to fight any dragons, I hope. So, what are you getting into? Well, let's look back over the last half-century, leading up to now, 1500 DR, the year of the sea's secrets revealed. Back in the mid-1400s DR, the city's ruling council was developing a decided tendency to control daily life with regulations, and more regulations, enforced by ever more frequent and prying watch patrols in the name of keeping the city on a war footing to deal with an ever more likely Zhentarim invasion. The only possible speed bumps to this were the Zhentarim, or rather, the heavy-footed Zhentalar armies, and the relatively few and lightly armed Harpers. The Harpers are against excessive authoritarianism of all sorts, from clerics of good deities who smother personal freedoms to try and achieve local utopia, to jackbooted tyrants. So the local Harpers and Melvaunt were striving to curb excessive regulations by schmoozing individual councillors and seeking to shift their personal views. Moreover, the Zhents had finally wised up to the expense and trouble and backfire in their faces tendencies of opening wars on too many fronts that sparked traditional foes, such as Hillsfar, Cormyr, the Dales, and Sembia, to react against them and prepare for them. So instead, the Zhents decided to co-opt the members of Melvaunt's ruling Council of Lords, dominated in the 1400s DR, as usual, by members of three wealthy merchant families, the houses of Nanther, Leoragon, and Brule, by a combination of bribery and blackmail, through 6 ambitious local merchants who won't admit, unless threatened with death, to being bankrolled by the Zhents. The intent was to make everyone in Melvaunt think any power struggle going on was purely locals on locals. Everyone with any brains in the city knew the Zhents were lurking and at work, of course, but as to where and how, they could only guess. The key Zhent achievement was co-opting Braver Hornthar, a greedy, ambitious weaponsmithing business owner. He had 7 smiths and over 20 apprentices toiling for him, turning out swords, spears, and daggers galore for sale in bulk to clients who would pay top coin. The Zhents were his best clients as they sought to assemble ever more weapons for their next armed conflict, trying again for Daggerdale, Shadowdale, and Vunlar, repeatedly until successful. They pushed Braver to meet privately with the Lord Chancellor of the day, Arhult Nanther, to get him to agree to begin purging the city's government of, quote, disloyal outland spies, unquote, among the ranks of clerks, tax collectors, and watch commanders, and by disloyal outland spies they meant anyone who wasn't secretly a Zhentarim. The Harpers spotted this purge and tried to find out if the Lord Chancellor had gone bad or who was influencing him. The other 5 ambitious local Zhent-stooge merchants tried for seats on the council by discrediting or arranging fatal accidents for 5 sitting lords, but the Harpers thwarted these attempts over more than a decade. When some attempts succeeded, the Harpers sought to weaken the hold of the Nanther, Leoragon, and Brule families on power by getting other individuals into council seats, without open strife in the city, for fear the Zhents or someone else would seize upon it as a pretext for invasion. And because Melvar were getting tired of every councillor being a Nanther, Leoragon, or Brule, the Harpers succeeded in getting a more varied Council of Lords, meaning Sembia, Thay, Westgate, various vast and Moonsea cities, and even Cormyr had representatives friendly to them sitting as councillors, which in turn meant that the council agrees on a lot less, changes things in the city far more slowly, and the forge work goes on, and the hordes pile up. For instance, the council are still debating whether or not to hang adventurers for being in the city, so it's wise to get local jobs as bodyguards, because they're also still debating who can be a bodyguard and how strong bodyguards can be. So far, they've only agreed on no undead, no dragons or wyverns, no beholders, illithids or drow, and no automatons larger than humans. So, it's all still just sitting there as the adventurers get to work. Care to join them? Thank you, and realms forever. I love doing these realms videos. I'd love to go on doing them for years to come, exploring the realms more and more deeply. The realms is a complete imaginary world. It has infinite depth. I will run out of years left in my life before I run out of topics to talk about. But I'd really like to talk most about what you want to hear about. And that is what spurs a lot of these videos. Questions from fans of the realms who want to use the realms at their gaming table, or who just read realms fiction and realms game books and want to know more about the place. I would love it if you'd go to my Patreon and become a protector of the realms, or some level of supporter, to make these videos possible for years to come. See you there.